my interview with Miranda McGovern, our pelvic floor specialist. I have a little bio here before I introduce Miranda or bring her up. So let's see, Miranda has been in the health and wellness field for a very long time. She's taught college level physical fitness classes, been a personal fitness trainer for over 20 years, and has owned and operated Studio and Pilates and Fitness for the past 12 years. Over the last 4 years, is it 4 years or 5 years? Miranda can correct me. Miranda has incorporated a therapy-based model as part of Studio M that includes Pilates, which is pelvic floor rehabilitation, neurokinetic therapy, PDTR, functional movement assessment, cellular release therapy for emotional and physical trauma. She's also a certified rock doc for rock tape. So today we're going to focus on Pilates or pelvic floor rehabilitation. So let me bring Miranda up. Hold on, here we go. Where are you? 2, 1. There you are.
They gave me a little countdown. I got a 3, 2, 1, go. Like,
okay. I'm like, so let me just tell everybody. So I recently met Miranda. We're both in the same wellness collective here in Northern California. And even though we've been in the collective for a while together, I just actually got to meet her in person. And we got to talking about what she does. And of course, I was all ears. So I'm going to be 53 in January, and I've been lucky enough not to have a lot of pelvic floor issues, leakage, shall we call it, until recently. And I have to admit, recently I'm kind of like, what is happening? And my mom had pelvic floor surgery. I have 2 friends who have had pelvic floor surgery in their early 40s. So I just figured, well, that's just what you do. You know, you get to this place and eventually you have the surgery and, you know, whatever. And then I talked to Miranda last week or a couple weeks ago. And
at that brunch that we had. Yeah.
Yeah. And found out that, in fact, the surgery is your last option. There are other things you can do prior to surgery. And so today we're going to talk about the stuff that you can do at home, or even with Miranda's assistance if you need extra help. So I just want to say, Miranda, tell everybody everything you told me, but that's a little broad.
Well, the biggest thing that we can start with is a lot of people think that there isn't anything that they can do. I mean, just like you did, they think that surgery is the option. And there's a lot of other things that you can do because the pelvic floor they're muscles. So you can train that muscle just like any other muscle in your body. So the Pilates program is an exercise program that was developed by a urogynecologist. So he's a urologist and a gynecologist in Reno, Nevada. So actually not too far from us here in Chico. There are some local resources here in Chico that I will discuss as well. So his name is Dr. Bruce Crawford. And so he spent a lot of time researching. Basically, he felt like he was doing a lot of these mesh repair surgeries or surgeries to put in slings to support basically the bladder, so you're not getting the leakages. And there were just, you know, some complications.
Is that considered a pelvic floor surgery? That like
that
the
is
sling with the mesh?
Yes. So either you're going to do mesh, and you may have even seen the commercials on TV. That's like, if you've had this mesh, you know, there were problems with the mesh. Oh. And it doesn't last forever either. So it's kind of putting a Band-Aid on something that if you don't also say you do have the surgery, like say, you know, that's really your choice at this point. You have to do these exercises to support basically the surgery that's been done because you need those muscles to be strong to support your organs. Anyways,
So what we're going to talk about today isn't just for people who haven't had it. It's for people who have had the surgery.
Yes, it's for people.
So I hope my friends are tuning in. I hope those people that I know are listening.
Yeah, regardless if you've had the surgery or not, or if you've had a hysterectomy, that's another thing that's really important is you want to make sure that you are doing these exercises because you no longer have a uterus in there to help support your organs. So really important. So we'll kind of go back to Dr. Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing all of these surgeries and he really felt like there was a better way. And so what he did is he did EMG, which they're electromagnetic EMG little discs that they can put on, and they can measure the contraction of a muscle. So with this EMG technology, you put it on any muscle and you can see how much the muscle's contracting. So he went through hundreds of exercises. They were fitness exercises, yoga exercises, Pilates, and he found the 10 best exercises that the EMG technology showed the most contraction of the pelvic floor. Okay, so he narrowed it down to 10. So those are the ones that I use with people. And you can do like 3 of the exercises. Usually what we say is if you find the 3 ones that work for you the best and you're working on those, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. So all of these exercises that he used, he found they had something in common. They're using co-recruiters. So those are muscles that are adjacent to or work with the pelvic floor. So these are kind of like, hey guys, let's go to the party. Come on, we all want to work together. And the other part of this is these are usually targeting the, so shall we say, areas that women want to target, inner thighs, glutes.
All right.
So the downside is you may feel like you've got a little bit more leaner glutes, inner thighs. So usually that's a positive. So people are usually pretty motivated to do these exercises.
Yes.
You know, so, there's not really a downside to it. And also the other thing is there is nothing bad about doing the exercises. Right. So, you might as well try this before surgery and see. Usually, if you are in a situation, there's something called prolapse, which basically means that your organs are descending down. And they measure this in grades. So again, that's something that your doctor might discuss with you too, that you feel like your organs are descending down. Usually that may be something that you feel a bulge in your vagina area that was not there before, or you may feel pressure there. And that's something that you can go to your doctor and they can, measure that for you. But that's kind of the first sign, along with maybe having some leakage. Okay. So, or your doctor in your annual exam may say, hey, I see that you are starting to have some prolapse here. So usually that can happen with people that are runners, people that lift really heavy weights. They may be holding their breath. It can be just, part of aging too. So we'll kind of talk about the things that we can do to prevent this. And I'm sure if anyone Googles prolapse, they're going to go, oh my gosh, that's definitely not what I want. So there's some pictures out there that you definitely go, okay, yeah, nope.
Just don't do it. Don't Google it.
Yeah, you really don't want to see that. And definitely not if you have your husband, boyfriend, significant other around. They're going to take a look at that. They're going to be like,
that's a good tip. Is this something that happens to everyone eventually, or there's some people that just, they're good?
I wouldn't say it happens to everybody. I would say a lot of the things that lifestyle choices, if you are overweight, if you're lifting heavy weights, you're holding your breath, definitely people that have had lots of pregnancies, it just depends. So there's some fascia that actually can get torn when you're delivering. So if you have a vaginal delivery, that kind of holds everything up. So, it's very common for that fascia to tear just as part of childbirth. The other thing, as we mentioned about hysterectomy, so you no longer have a uterus in there that's in between bladders and, the opening of your vagina. And so, you're holding your breath, everything, gravity pushes down. So that's one of the things that's actually most important along with the exercises is that you're breathing correctly. Now, some people do, and I know that Amy, you do some powerlifting. And so that's a different philosophy where you are holding your breath because you're bracing. So you are lifting really heavy weight. And most of the time, it's not recommended to lift heavier than 30 pounds.
We definitely are lifting more than 30 pounds.
But again, if you do not have some of these things going on, then it is okay to lift heavier. But most of the time, once you've had a hysterectomy, they tell you not to lift heavier than 25, 30 pounds. And that's why.
Right.
And there's certain exercises that you want to avoid too. But the biggest thing we want to talk about today is the exercises you want to do. So I'm going to show this right here. This is actually a Pilates kit right here. And inside this, there is a ball that you use for the exercise. There's also a DVD of the exercises. I do sell these kits. If you are not local, I'd be happy to mail one to you. But if you are here local, usually what I recommend is that you come and you get a ball. So I sell just a ball in a kit like this. Comes in a nice little box. There's a ball inside, looks like this. It actually has a straw, and then you blow it up. It has a little.
I think I have a picture. I think you sent me like what the ball looks like right here.
The ball actually looks like this. Yep, there's the Pilates ball right there. So the ball is very helpful for some of the exercises. So, back to Dr. Crawford, he went through and he found the 10 best exercises. The most important thing is the breathing sequence when you're doing the exercises. So I usually coach people on that. I've got several workshops coming up. I do some things here locally. So coming up on Tuesday, the 19th, I will be doing a workshop from 6 to 7 p.m. It's on a donation basis, which is excellent. So everybody should be able to come and attend the workshop. Other workshops I do, I may charge $25, which just covers the cost of the ball. So everybody gets a free ball. Again, the balls are $10 unless you're out of town. You want me to ship it to you. Definitely contact me. I'd be happy to do that. So the exercises are all based on fitness or Pilates, some yoga exercises. So they're all very easy to do. I've got a closed Facebook group that I've got videos of me doing the exercises. So there's a couple things that I do with people. I go through the exercises in my workshop, or if you come see me individually, I'll go through the exercises with you. And if you want to bring an iPad, I can even video you doing the exercises.
Cool.
So if that's something you'd like to have. Or I also have all of the exercises, I videoed me doing them. So
Facebook group, something that you can make available to people that might be watching or seeing this that are out of state or out of town?
Absolutely. So it is Pelvic Floor Support Group Chico, and I think you've got a
I did have that
group.
Let me find it. I did have an image up, but I couldn't. When it was interesting because when I was searching on Facebook for it, I couldn't find it. And it's possible because it's private that it wouldn't come up. I don't know.
I had you ask me for an invitation and I approved your invitation to the group.
But I thought that was to a different one. That was to the VIP.
No, that was to the pelvic support group.
That's the right group? Okay, yes. So then I did find that. Because I Googled exactly what you sent me in that, or Facebooked it, and it didn't come up.
Okay. And that could be because it's a private group. So anyone that wants to reach out to me, please feel free to message me too. And I'm
going to put all of this in the comments. I'm going to put your studio link. I'm going to put your name and your Facebook.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to use, whatever you want to do for contact. If there's an email that you prefer, things like that, we'll put all that up in the comments for everybody so they can go in there and contact you that way. Because I think, and then the other thing that you mentioned to me, which was very cool, is for people who are out of state. If they want to try the exercises, but they're just not feeling like they're getting them right, you can do kind of a Skype consultation with them. And you can see what they're doing, and then you can kind of help direct them just the way you would in person. And
you can even do a FaceTime, Zoom. There's lots of different cool apps out there. I know I've seen the Facebook portal. It's so hilarious with the Muppets. So I know that there's lots of technology out there.
Yeah. So before we go any further, I did kind of put in my Facebook feeds some of a list of things, like if this is you should listen. So can you run through some of those again? Because the other thing that I was shocked by was that it's not just a female issue. Men also have this issue, but it's manifests in a different way. And
it's still that same kind of incontinence feeling. So first of all, let's just kind of define incontinence, because we've got stress incontinence, which is the laughing, coughing, sneezing, jumping, running. That's the one that I think a lot of people are very familiar with. And then we also have the urge situation where all of a sudden you've got to go. Like that you just didn't get the signal kind of going like, hey, I kind of need to go. I should probably think about heading to the bathroom. Like all of a sudden it's like, you've got to go. So those are a little bit different situations. That's a little bit like the signal just isn't getting to your brain quick enough to say, hey, your bladder's full. What we're really talking a lot about is stress incontinence. And, this can help that urge situation too. But the biggest thing we're talking about is that stress incontinence here. And also, one of the other things is the muscles there. the pelvic floor muscles help you also empty your bladder. So if you're not able to empty your bladder completely, then you're looking at a lot of UTIs that can be chronic for men and women. So that's something that isn't great either, who likes to have that go on. So the biggest thing that I think most people that are tuning in here are having the stress incontinence, where they're laughing, coughing, sneezing, running, jumping. It's like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom before we're going to do jumping jacks, or they just don't do it.
Right. In my case, we're lifting. We're pulling what? We're pulling what in a deadlift today? Let me just run to the bathroom. In between every lift.
Right. And I know that that's one of those things that they're like, okay, here's what's like on our WOD or on my list of exercises today. Oh, jumping jacks, like there's a line for the bathroom. So
no, not doing them.
Or not doing them. So with these exercises, if you do them 2 to 3 times a week or more, and you're doing 3 of the exercises, and it's really not going to take very long. We're talking like 5-10 minutes to do them, and you're really consistent with it, you should notice a difference in 2 to 3 weeks. And that is really phenomenal. So what Dr. Crawford found was that if people were consistent, and again, this is something that has to become a lifestyle. It's not something that you're just doing, for a week, 2 weeks. You're consistent with it, that the outcomes were close to the surgery. So you were getting, the benefits. And also, this is something that you don't have to have surgery. There's no downtime. And, with any surgery, there can be complications, and also, as we were talking about, even if you have the surgery, you need to be doing these exercises to keep the pelvic floor strong. So a lot of the exercises are things that people might be familiar with. One of them is a Pilates bridge. The execution of it, so the sequence that you do the bridge in and how you breathe through it is a little bit different than the typical Pilates bridge, or some people are familiar with a yoga bridge. So I'm very specific on how I cue that and how I want people to do the exercise. So that one is very familiar, and I have that people do that one almost all the time because it's one that works for most people. So even if you have some injuries, like say you have sensitivity in your back, sensitivity in your knees, there is an exercise that will work for you. Okay, so there's lots of modifications that I can give people too. So don't think like, oh, well, I have a bad hip, or I've got this going on, or my back, I can't do that. Well, probably you can. So again, I can let people know what exercises might work for them specifically. But most people, again, that I've worked with really found that they had significant changes in 2 to 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so that's amazing. And so anybody that's local to go to the Tuesday night, the 19th, your lecture and demo, really, because we're bringing mats and stuff. So we're going to actually
we're going to go through the exercises.
Yeah, which is huge. I know you're supposed to sign up on Facebook because there's limited space. So I'll put that link up as well.
Great.
For anybody local. But just go through some of the symptoms that men might have that they might want to start looking at these exercises.
And this goes for men and women. If you're getting up more than once at night to go to the bathroom, that's one of the biggest things. Or you feel like you're going throughout the day, more than say, 6 to 8 times. Like it just, unless you are one of the people that's drinking lots and lots of water. Now that's a little bit different story. I know there are some people that drink lots of water, for different reasons, but it just seems like you're going all the time. But getting up at night, that's, more than one time is one of those things that's disrupting your sleep. That's really something that needs to be considered. For men, we can also looking at having pain in the perineum. So say you're a cyclist, you've got pain there, you've got some pelvic pain, you've got back pain, and that goes for men and women. Sometimes back pain is a result of a weak pelvic floor. It's not supporting your structure. So
where is there a specific space in your back that you would feel the pain?
Usually I would say lower back pain.
Yeah.
That's a big one for people. Yeah. And once we get their pelvic floor stronger, it really supports their structure and their back pain goes away. It also really helps with having good posture. The other thing for men is erectile dysfunction. So pelvic floor can really help with that too. So, and that can go for women too. Sensitivity with intimacy, with intercourse, those are those muscles in there, pelvic
Mm-hmm.
floor.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. You said painful intercourse was another red flag,
Mm-hmm.
potentially.
Definitely. And, a lot of times, I mean, I can say this even though my son is now 18, after I had him, I felt like I did not want to jump. I mean, I was like, okay, I just felt like, okay, I have extreme weakness. Like, what is going on? I really felt like everything was just going to fall out.
Oh God,
No one really told me about this.
Yeah, my cousin and I were running partners in the summer, and she lived in Texas and I lived in Massachusetts, and we'd meet in the middle with our families in Michigan, and we both had babies at the same time. And that summer we were going for our regular daily runs, and we were both like, yeah, no, can't run. Definitely feel like stuff's going to fall out. It was a very bizarre, sense. And it took about a year or more, but it went away. And then I didn't think much of it until now.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things that I kind of realized is like no one really said anything about this.
Right.
No
one tells. Yeah.
Talked about it. No one talked about pelvic floor rehab like afterwards, how to make sure those muscles are strong. And it's really interesting. And I actually just had surgery to repair this, but I ended up with a labral tear because my pelvic floor was really weak. And I was running again after I had my second child. And so kind of what's happening is your pelvis is really unstable. And so your femur, which is your leg bone that goes into the hip socket, it's sloshing around a lot in there. And so I ended up with a tear in there. And I'm pretty sure that's how I got the tear. There was never an incident that I was like, oh, I felt this injury happen. But that was one of the things that the physical therapist said was, your pelvic floor is just not strong at all. And here you are, you're running. And I was a trainer at that time and I was lifting heavy. And I went back to doing what I had been doing right after I had my children very quickly because I was pretty fit and I had really smooth deliveries. But she said, you know what? You just didn't give your body a chance. You didn't do the right exercises. So that was one of the things that kind of started me on this journey. And I had the tear for 12 years, and I found that really strengthening my pelvic floor and doing a lot of rehab actually stabilized everything for a really good amount of time until the surgeries improved. And I just recently had it arthroscopically repaired, where 12 years ago, I would have been looking at spending 6 to 8 months on crutches, which, you think about and you're like, with 2 little kids, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I think women in general really need to know, in other countries, they actually have a whole rehab program and they actually have them go see what they call a physio.
After having a baby.
After having a baby. And they do pelvic floor rehab with them. So, there's a woman, her name is Julie Wiebe, and she does a lot of videos talking about how important this is, breathing. And if you are a runner, if you are someone that does lift weights, about how important breathing is and even the posture that you have while you're lifting. And kind of how to get back in shape with that. That's something that I can also help people with. But it's really important to think about those things. So just for example, the breathing, we can talk about that for a moment. So if you're holding your breath, and so your abdominal cavity is filled with air, okay, and so you're holding your breath, and so basically you're trying to contract your abdominals. So you're squeezing in here. The air is going here and here, okay? So think about a balloon and you're squeezing in on it, okay? So what's happening is then that air is going this way, okay? Yeah. So your organs are down here, and this is kind of just a band, but this is your pelvic floor right here, okay? And so as you inhale, this goes down, and it acts kind of like a spring, and it's supporting your organs. As you exhale your air out, it should pop back up, okay? If this is weak, it's not going to be doing a whole lot of work right here. So then you're holding your breath, and it's just pushing everything down more. So, not to get too graphic, but sometimes you may realize like, hey, I'm trying to use a tampon and I can't get that to come in, or your tampon's coming out because things are prolapsing down.
Right.
So those are
interesting.
Yeah. Some things that you may realize like, okay, it doesn't feel right.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's so interesting. Yeah. I just am still stunned. I mean, the fact that I've kind of been in the wellness world for over 10 years, and then this is a whole area I've just never heard anything about. And I'm so kind of bothered, but you've said it twice now, nobody suggests any exercise or anything to rehab after having a baby. Having a baby is traumatic, I mean, to your body.
It is. Yeah.
And it just
a lot
occurs
of
to
times,
me.
yeah, people are telling you, oh, you should be happy. Look at this beautiful baby. And,
Yeah.
that's something I want to give a shout out to Dr. Gregory Davis. He's a urogynecologist that I work with here locally, and he's excellent. There's a lot of great information on his website too. And, postpartum, there's a lot of things that people just don't talk about. And, people are like, okay, I should be happy. I have this baby, but yet I just don't feel, I'm not in my body anymore. There's these changes that are happening. And, so we're really here to support you. I am happy to support you. Dr. Davis has a lot of great information to help people feel like, this is okay. And, it took 9 months to get this way. It's going to take some time to have everything go back the other way as well.
This is really the first time that I've ever heard childbirth kind of described as a traumatic event. And it's great and it's amazing and the babies are amazing, but it's super traumatizing to your body. And I'm just stunned to think about it this way and think, why are we not in recovery? It's just, that is crazy. I keep looking at my other screen because I'm trying to see, I'm trying to see if there's any comments coming in. Okay, so one of the questions is, how long after a baby delivery do we do the exercises? So if you are kind of shearing up or recovering.
Some of it depends on your doctor and how your delivery was. I was very fortunate with my second child, and that's one of the reasons I started running again, which maybe I should have had a little more trauma, but I didn't have to have an episiotomy. I didn't have any stitches. I didn't have a C-section. So I pretty much felt good afterwards. So as long as you're feeling good, there's some things that, as long as your doctor's releasing you to do, say you're walking, there are some things that you can do where you're just working on isometric contractions.
Okay.
So that's where I would have you start, where you're just working on, and I want to talk about that a little bit too, and the breathing. So the first thing that we want to do, because when you're pregnant too, your whole abdomen is filled with this baby. So you're not able to take deep breaths. So really what should be happening is every time you breathe, okay, so say this is our pelvic floor. Okay, you inhale, pelvic floor goes down. You exhale, you blow all that air out, it comes back up. So it should be doing this, okay, all the time, kind of like a trampoline, okay? And so if you're not able to fully breathe and connect with that, guess what? It's not moving at all. So that's kind of one of the first things that we start with. So that's what I would have you start with. And again, that's your doctor's released you. You're okay to start walking. You didn't have an episiotomy. You didn't have a C-section, some of those things. But just trying to connect with those muscles again, because they've been stretched out too.
Yes.
So we want to also think about a lifting up sensation. So traditional Kegels are more of a squeezing your vagina or stopping your urine flow. And I just kind of cringe when I hear that, because that's like a contracting. And we want to think about a lifting up sensation. So you want to think again, okay, this is what's happening. You're inhaling, it goes down, you exhale, it's coming up. So we want to think about this lifting up sensation. And that's kind of what we talk about a lot in Pilates, is we want to think about this lifting up sensation. And we talk about an elevator going up, and maybe it go to the first floor, second floor, third floor. And if you've just delivered, you may just be going up to the first floor and back down. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at this pulling up, or like a jellyfish that's doing this motion instead of a squeeze. We also
can you describe kind of how to create that?
So
I don't even know how to do that.
To visualize, and this is where it kind of gets hands-on. So I can actually put my hands on people, because a lot of people are like, am I doing it? I don't know if I'm doing it right. What does it feel like? and I can actually feel it. And some of it is you have to close your eyes, you're going to put your hands on your abdomen, and I have people do some visualization too. And sometimes, just depending on if you've had a hysterectomy, C-section, maybe you did have an episiotomy, you've had a lot of stitching, there's scar tissue in there. And I do some other work. It's called PDTR, which is based on functional neurology, which we do some muscle testing. What happens with scar tissue or that trauma is your body does a compensation pattern. So you may not even be able to connect with those muscles. Sometimes with C-section, there's some numbness in the scar area, or even when you have a hysterectomy. And so with this method, we can actually open that space back up where your brain can connect with those muscles again. And again, this would be a one-on-one situation, but I have really good luck with having people be able to connect with those muscles again. It's kind of like we have to turn on a light switch. Mm-hmm. And most women that I work with are like, how come no one told me about this? It's the same thing with the childbirth. Like, how come no one told me that this was available? Right. You know, and so it is very similar. If you go to a pelvic floor specialist, a lot of times they can use some equipment that's a monitor, and you can actually see whether you're contracting pelvic floor or not. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I can just feel with my hands. So mm-hmm. I would just put them on someone's abdomen, not going beyond there. I'm not going to get fresh with anybody. But that's always a question, like, okay, we're like, nope, just wear yoga pants. But sometimes we have to work on that scar tissue a little bit. So that way we can find those muscles. And it's seriously like a light comes on. And they're like, okay, I can feel this lifting up sensation. It is with the breath. The key is really the breathing. And so if you're not able to fully inhale and exhale, you know, you're going to feel like you can really contract a little bit more when you exhale that air out. And a lot of people are afraid to do that big exhale. They're like, I just did a little breath. And it's like, no, you really have to blow it out. So we say like you're blowing out 100 birthday candles on this field, and you really want to blow all that air out. So that's some practicing too. But I always start people just the basics there. And a lot of times that is enough that they start noticing a difference by just doing the basics there of the breathing.
So this is also a little bit different than just regular Pilates.
It is. And that's why it kind of is the pelvic floor Pilates. A lot of this I incorporate into the classes that I teach because I feel it's really important. And the other thing is people come to my studio and they're like, we want to get on the equipment. We don't want to just do the Pilates stuff. Like we want to play over there. So a lot of the cueing that I do for the bridging exercises, we do some leg circles and things like that, are things that I actually cue in my classes as well. So I don't have a specific Pilates or pelvic floor Pilates class that's integrated into all my classes.
But I guess if someone's going to regular Pilates, they won't necessarily get this unless
they won't necessarily get that. And I do have some ladies that go to some other practitioners in town and they get referred over to me. And a lot of times that one-on-one, they're like, wait, this isn't quite the same. And I said, you know, it is very specific and your Pilates classes are great, but not everyone is trained to this extent. And I would say this is a very niche physical therapy approach to it, and doing the hands-on and really making sure that they're connecting with the muscles. And also having the ability to test those muscles specifically to make sure that they are firing with the functional neurology piece and being able to treat scar tissue. Really, it's just a different piece that just really helps people immensely.
And we have a question. How do you DIY to improve numbness from a cesarean? Was that something too?
That would be something that I can help you if you're here locally. I'd be happy to you can make an appointment and come in. It's some work I actually do with some tuning forks. Okay. If you're not here locally, that's something you can try massaging the area. There are some other practitioners, massage therapists that may be able to do some work, but really a PDTR or a functional neurologist is who you want to see because there's some muscle testing involved with that. That it may be that scar tissue from your C-section may be affecting a lot of other muscles in your body. It may be giving you lower back pain. It may just be creating a lot more issues. And I don't want to just kind of throw things out there that it could be doing because I always test. I say test, don't guess.
Can you tell me a little bit more what PDTR is?
Yeah, it stands for proprioceptive deep tendon release therapy. It was developed by a neurologist and a orthopedic surgeon, and he felt, again, like Dr. Crawford, he was doing a lot of surgeries that weren't really giving the results that people wanted. And so there are these receptors in your body, think like a sensor, that's giving your brain information that says, yes, I can use this muscle, or no, I can't. And the scar tissue almost acts like the Bermuda Triangle. So your brain goes, I need to use my pelvic floor, you need to use my abdominals, and you got nothing. It just goes nowhere. And so it's a really weird sensation when you test that specifically, or you may be even in a class and, intellectually, I need to use my quadriceps, or I need to use my thigh muscles for this exercise. You're trying to do it, but you can't do it. And the teacher's kind of going like, come on, what's going on? Here, you need to do this. And you're like, I know, but your brain can't find it. And so that was initially why I got into doing that work, is I would have that in my classes. And I would see these people, and I knew they knew what I was asking them to do, but they couldn't do it. And it is something that I find is very common with surgeries, whether it's a hip replacement surgery, knee surgery, because there's a compensation that happens. Your body gets used to going in this compensation pattern. So this is the same with pelvic floor. Your body gets used to not using pelvic floor. You may be using more of, like, we call it rib cage gripping, where you're really contracting in your rib area. You may even get a cramp there, okay, when you're trying to use your pelvic floor. You may be holding your breath. You may be squeezing your butt, okay, so you're using your glute muscles instead. So these are things that we can do. So we're changing things so you're using the muscles appropriately. So any session that I do with people, that's the first thing that we do, is we kind of establish that their brain can find the muscles that we need to use, because otherwise I'm just training them to do a compensation pattern. And I'm really not helping them to achieve the goals that they want.
Right. So, again, for those that aren't local, sadly, and don't have access to you, going into your group and watching your videos is a step that they can take. And then again, if they want more interaction and one-on-one with you, then they can contact you, and you guys can kind of do this, what we're doing.
Absolutely. And we can talk about what they're feeling too, because that's really important. I talk about that in my videos too. So sometimes just putting a ball in between your knees, when I talked a little bit earlier about co-contractors. So the co-contractors are your inner thigh muscles, your glute muscles, and your abdominal muscles. So say you're lying down on your back in a bridge position, so your knees are bent, your feet are flat on the floor. You just put the ball in between your knees, or you're even seated. You put a ball in between your knees, or a couch cushion, so you don't have, say, a fancy ball. Just squeeze that and just notice what that feels like. Notice if you feel more happening in your pelvic area, almost like a seatbelt going hip to hip. And then see if you exhale all your air out and you think about that lifting up sensation, what do you feel? Do you feel something in there? And, it's a little bit harder to feel that seated. One of the best places to feel it is when you're lying down, because you're not working against gravity. So I think gravity is pulling everything down when you're seated. So if you're lying down, it's going to be a little bit easier. So that's one of the other things.
And you said a bridge. So your feet are flat on the floor, knees are bent, and then you have your pelvis and butt off the floor?
So you're going to lift your pelvis up off the floor. Yep.
Yeah.
Just seeing if I have a picture on my phone here that I could show you. I should have thought about that. But that's the first exercise that I start people with. And my breathing and bridge exercise has both of those together. So you're lying on your back and you're putting your hands just on your abdomen. So I actually have you put a triangle on your pelvis. So so you've got your fingers on your pubic bone, and then your thumbs are right above there below your navel. So you've got kind of this triangle. And you're lying down on your back, and you're just trying to connect by almost contracting hip to hip, like a seatbelt there. And you're thinking about that lifting up sensation. And that's one of the biggest kind of just basic exercises there. So sometimes I'll just start with people with the breathing, whether it's men or women. But I've had a lot of men come in that have hip pain, groin pain, and it turns out it's pelvic floor.
That's no kidding.
Really the issue. So, some people have just had, trauma. They've had accidents. And again, it's that same workaround. They've done a compensation pattern. So Do we have any more questions from people? Because I feel like I want to
I'm
make
not,
sure I
yeah, I'm
answer
not
all the
seeing
questions.
any. Oh, let me check in my other group. I posted
And if
earlier.
you're not local too, there is a directory of PDTR practitioners. There's other Pilates, practitioners too. There are a lot of people that are physical therapists for pelvic floor specifically too. So I'd be happy to try and find someone in your area. If it doesn't work for us just to Skype, or kind of you need more from there, really happy to do that. Lots of resources out there. But the biggest thing that I really want people to know is, you're not alone, and there's a lot of things that you can do. The other thing, just to touch on really quickly, we talked about that urge situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go. There is your tibial nerve. Okay. So your tibia, which is the lower part of your leg and your shin, they can actually do some stim work to that to help strengthen that signal to your brain. So that is actually something that an acupuncturist
On your tibia. That's so funny. Tibia.
It's called the tibial nerve. And so it's kind of in your ankle that the acupuncturist may put some needles in there, but that's very effective. And Dr. Davis actually does some of that tibial nerve stim here. And my son will probably be like, hopefully none of my parents, nobody that knows me is talking about this. But my son, interestingly enough, had a blockage in his urethra growing up. And so he wasn't able to empty completely. And so we talked about that too, that's going to cause UTIs. And for him, it caused what we call an overactive pelvic floor. So it was so active from trying to hold everything all the time. So we had to do some work with him, and he actually had to have some surgery to kind of open up this narrowing that he had. It can be something that you're just born with, and then they open that up. But he had this chronic thing of not knowing when he needed to go. He had a lot of nocturnal incontinence, so at night when he was sleeping. And so that was something that I was like, okay, there's got to be a better situation to try and help him with this, because he didn't want to go overnight at friends' houses. He was embarrassed about it, school trips, the whole thing. It's just something really embarrassing.
How easy was it for you to get that diagnosed? I mean, when you were like, something's up here.
It took a while, and actually the urologist was like, you guys are really bad parents, because didn't you realize this was going on? And
oh, come on.
Exactly.
You know what's going on, and most people are just like, well, they're just, but I mean, even just to sit here and hear that story and go, listen, if your kid's having UTIs, and if there's even as a boy, and if, there's something else going on.
Yes. So our pediatrician is like, okay, let's refer him. And, he was conservative too. He was like, sometimes it just takes longer for boys, sometimes they just went at the vet, and he was like saying how common that is. So not to jump to that conclusion all the time, but my son, there was an issue. And so then he had this learned behavior. And so that was another reason I went and I did this specialized functional neurology training. But, we went and we saw someone down at UC Davis, and they said, you know what, here's what you're going to do. You're going to get a clock. You're going to wake him up during the night, have him pee, and then you're going to turn the clock, and then you're going to keep doing this until it's morning and he can make it through the night. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we're going to do what? Like, the whole house is going to get up with this clock? I was like, no. And
right.
Like, oh my. Sleep for like 6 years with my kids. Now you're telling me I'm getting up. I was like, no. So we were like, there has to be a better way. So we really found, after one treatment with this functional neurology, the PDTR, everything changed. And we were able also to restore normal function to his pelvic floor. So I want to make sure people know that your pelvic floor can be overactive too. And that means where it's tight all the time. And that's usually like the pelvic pain. And that's something that we want to also make sure that people know, that you may not want to do Kegels then. We may be working more on the breathing and relaxing with pelvic floor.
Can you see the comment section?
Yeah. I can see part of it. So I heard this one guy was like, she was asking about some demos, and then
so that's going to be in your private group. So where can we see a demo of the exercises? So that'll be in the private group. So you'll need to
in the private group.
Yeah, so we'll put that link up here when we're done. Or if can you type in there? Do you have a but we'll put that up, and then you can go and ask to join the group, and Miranda can invite you in.
I don't think I can type in there. I just had some weird thing come up. But please feel free to message me. You can private message me. I'd be happy to send you some of the exercises as well.
Yeah. So Emily, I'm going to put all that in the comments. So check the comments after we're done. And then we have, how long do you have to do the exercises to combat incontrovertible? I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Are you talking about incontinence?
Well, it's possible this was a Facebook correction.
Yeah, and I would say you really need to do them consistently for 2 to 3 weeks. I mean,
but you said lifestyle. You're not supposed to stop. You're not supposed to be like, yay, I'm healed. And then back to the same old.
And this is, and it's really funny. Someone sent me a YouTube video of this comedian, and he goes to the doctor and he says, I'm having all these problems with my ankle. Doctor, what can you do? I hear you've done all these things where you can make somebody a new ear. Can you give me a new ankle? Doctor's like, you're just going to have to stretch. This is now part of your life. Yes. You're just stretching. This age you're at. So we joke about that all the time, that, you're just going to have to stretch. You're just going to have to floss. These are the maintenance things we need to do for our life.
Yes.
And if we don't want to be peeing our pants, we're going to have to be doing these things.
That's right. And I tell you what, there's some motivation there. And yes, that was right. It was a misspelling. So it was for peeing. How do we stop peeing?
Good. I just wanted to make sure I was guessing it wasn't a condition that I'm like, I haven't heard of that, but.
Yeah. So we were getting back to the basics. Let's just get back to the peeing. We just want to stop peeing. Yeah. And I hope new moms are listening. I hope, anybody who is a mom who's had a vaginal delivery is listening, because it doesn't matter how old you are. I have my 26-year-old daughter. I'm sure she's thrilled I'm mentioning her too, because people will know her on here.
Exactly. They're like,
she's interested. She's just like, yeah. So she's coming to your class with me. We're heading over. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, why suffer with this when you don't have to? And now I'm learning this at 52. I'm like, you're 26. You need to learn this now. Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing I just want to mention, because I know we've been going for a while here too, and I want to, make sure that everybody gets all the information. And again, Dr. Greg Davis, he has a great nurse practitioner too, Debbie Campbell. I work with her too.
I know her.
And she's great. And they even have a nurse practitioner, I'm not sure of her name, where it's a walk-in basis, so you can walk in and see her. Sometimes, because the bladder tissues are estrogen dependent, so here we are talking about menopause, perimenopause, when your estrogen starts to become depleted, that may be also when you start having these issues. You may also notice around your cycle too, like right before you have your period, that you start having more incontinence issues too. So that kind of is a cue to you that it has to do with hormones. Not everyone can do hormone replacement. Again, I'm going to suggest that you do bioidentical.
Of course.
So you're getting something that is very clean. But that may be something that you either need a topical, they have got sprays, gels, patches, but that may be something that you need, because those tissues need that estrogen to lubricate and just stay supple.
I'm a huge advocate of bioidentical hormones. They're not for everybody, but for people that are trying to age well and healthy longevity, women tend to get sick and disease tends to set in when our estrogen gets depleted. It's not when our estrogen is high. We're sort of bulletproof when we have high estrogen as young women. It's as we get older. So yeah, very much a fan. And I've been following the research, because I know that, a lot of people are afraid of it. But if you actually look up the research and you read the new research, it's all about health and keeping your body strong and disease-free.
Yeah, very true.
And this is just one more piece of that.
It is, and it needs to be balanced. So you may need some progesterone, you may need some testosterone, but again, that's something for a professional. The research, you really shouldn't, if you have a uterus, you do not want to be doing any kind of estrogen unopposed. You definitely need to have progesterone, because you need to, otherwise your uterine lining will build up and you don't want that. So but anyway, you're right. There's plenty of really good doctors out there that do this. So we'll leave it to them. The other thing too, for people, and again, Dr. Davis here locally, shout him out again.
Yes.
But he actually has a laser too. So, his laser, I believe it's called the Mona Lisa Touch, works to rejuvenate vaginal tissue. So again, this may be for somebody that can't do estrogen, that maybe has had cancer or other things that they cannot do estrogen,
Right.
and that is something that will rejuvenate those tissues. So again, you can have painful intercourse. There can be a lot of things that are going on because those tissues are just not getting the blood flow that they need. So I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah.
Because that can
amazing,
be
all
something
the
that
therapies.
Yes.
So our collective here in Northern California is called Wellness for Being. And even if you're not local, it's kind of a great Facebook page to get on because there's so many different practitioners and therapies that get discussed and introduced through that group. So if you're into that alternative and holistic approaches, the Wellness for Being page, I'll put a link to that up too. We're going to have a very long link set of links here.
But that's great because I know there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to, and in the show notes, there'll be all kinds of things there. And I love to go look at all the resources.
Thank you.
And there may be articles that you find too. And I know, Amy, you've put a lot of stuff up there about sugar. That's the other thing too, is sometimes bladders are sensitive to things that are very acidic. So you may notice too that if you are having a lot of acidic foods, there's something that you can get. It's called pre-relief. Comes in a little bottle. They have it at CVS. You can just ask for it at the drugstore or at the pharmacy. It's something that you're going to eat or take before you eat acidic foods. So that would be your tomato sauce, your strawberries, lemonade, anything with lots of lemon in it. So it's going to take that acid out. So that can be very irritating to the bladder. And I actually have had a couple clients that are like, okay, what's going on? Do I have a UTI? I'm just feeling like I need to pee all the time. And I was like, well, what have you been eating? Well, it's tomato season and I've been having all that, and some people are more sensitive than others, but that's a great thing if you do have that sensitivity. And most people know, when they eat those foods.
Usually you see it. A lot of people complain of heartburn and reflux. Oh my God. My dogs are really making weird noises. I apologize. So I was like, what is that?
They're saying, you need to wrap it up here.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is so, I hope, pardon me.
Oh, just want to make sure. I think we got all the questions. Yes.
So I think we did. I think we got the questions. I'm so excited. People are here to be able to ask questions. We may, if we watch the comment feed, we may get more questions after the fact because this will be up. I will probably put it up. I'm going to try and put it up on my Instagram video as well. So I'll just watch for comments and questions there. But we will post. We'll call it show notes in the comments, all of the good links that we talked about, and all the different ways to contact you, which I think is a really super resource. So even just getting into your Facebook group where they can get to know you a little bit more and then being able to contact you through that if they want to do some private work. I just think I'm kind of like annoyed. I'm like kind of mad. I'm like, why is this not something that we know about? I literally in my head was thinking, when should I plan that surgery? I'm like, it just makes me so angry when you just don't know the options. And it just, again, it's like, how is this not something that everyone is talking about? Well, hopefully we're starting the conversation and it will grow.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. And that was actually one of the missions that I've had is to try and talk to a lot of women about it or encourage other women, at the gym, whatever. And I've contacted a couple gyms and said, hey, would you want to do a pelvic floor workshop? And, some of them are like, I don't know. I think men wouldn't like that. And, and I'm like, well, who cares? But again, there's been a lot of receptivity at some of the yoga places in town. And I just, keep putting it out. People because there's more and more people that really need to know that you take charge of your health. I mean, that's the other thing about it that I really feel like you need to be the advocate for your health. And sometimes you do have to do a little bit more research. And also if your doctor says this is X, Y, and Z, maybe question it a little bit. Not that your doctor's wrong, but sometimes there are just other approaches out there.
Right.
I mean, I would say we would still be having a clock waking up my son if we
Right.
stayed with that.
Well,
Sometimes you just kind of have.
Well, it's frustrating because everyone knows Kegels, and quite frankly, it just doesn't work for this. So, and then as far as I knew, there was no other option. It's either you do your Kegels and they work, or you don't, and then you get the surgery. And so, yeah, but we definitely need to wrap it up because it's almost it's been an hour. So look at us.
Oh, goodness. All right.
That's great. I'm very excited.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you, everyone that asked questions. Please reach out to me, and I'll do my best to answer the question. If I don't know, I will find out for you.
And then if you have friends that didn't catch this, or you think they would like it, send them the link from Facebook so they can catch the recording, because it will be up. And I will post it some more too, because it's so good. Oh my gosh. And I am excited to get into the group and look at the videos. Yay. All right. So thanks so much, Miranda. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Take care.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye. Bye.